Incredible twist. Billionaire invites single mom to dance at wedding, transforming her lonely night. Sarah stood in front of the mirror, adjusting her simple dress, the modest layers barely able to shield the insecurities stirring deep within her. At 35, she felt invisible, just a number in the overwhelming list of daily duties as a nurse and a single mom. Her 12-year-old son, Noah, filled their small house with laughter. Yet she often wondered if her love could stretch far enough to provide the life he deserved. Hardly managing the bills from her divorce, Sarah's life oscillated between exhaustion from endless shifts at the clinic and the constant strain of financial woes. The news that Jack, the town's former star and now a billionaire, was returning for his grand wedding sparked both curiosity and resentment in her. His life, filled with wealth and opportunities, contrasted painfully with her own. It was impossible not to feel a twinge of envy as she envisioned the glitzy world he was re-entering while she scrambled to make ends meet. But with Noah's infectious energy pushing her, she accepted the wedding invitation, hoping for a brief escape from their mundane routine. She wanted Noah to experience joy, perhaps even magic, the kind of magic she felt slipping away day by day as they stepped into the extravagant venue. The air thick with laughter and the delicate clinking of glasses, Sarah's heart raced. The opulence around her amplified her insecurities. This world felt foreign. Surrounded by elegantly dressed guests, she instinctively grasped Noah's hand tighter, the warmth of his small fingers grounding her in reality. Amidst the swirling lights, she sensed the disparity. Her modest dress clung to her body, the fabric a stark reminder that this world was not hers. Then, unexpectedly, there was Jack, radiating confidence and charm among the crowd. Shock flooded through her as their eyes met. They exchanged awkward smiles, remnants of their childhood friendship igniting a flicker of warmth that she desperately craved. Their nostalgia blossomed into brief conversation, laughter cutting through the overwhelming noise, and for a heartbeat, the divide between their lives shrank. But deep inside, wariness churned. Jack then surprised her by extending his hand, inviting her to dance. Her mind raced at his words, cottony thoughts colliding with memories of rejection and self-doubt. Was it a joke? Did he see her as she really was, or merely a fleeting shadow from his past? How could she, a single mom scrapping for change, dance with a billionaire? Paralyzed, she hesitated. Surrounded by the glitzy crowd, Sarah's internal conflict escalated. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The music shifted, melodic yet anxiety-inducing. She could feel judgmental whispers slicing through the atmosphere. Just as she gave in to the current and placed her hand in his, the reality of their lives collided harshly. Jack's life glittered in stark contrast to hers, yet they twirled under the shimmering light, an ephemeral connection swirling around them. As he leaned closer, vulnerabilities danced in their shared space. His secret trembled on his lips, an unvoiced bond that threatened to redefine everything. Would she be able to let herself believe in this moment? Her heart raced, but doubts clawed fiercely at her. Could they truly be intertwined? Or was this just a fleeting mirage in her otherwise mundane existence? As Sarah swayed in Jack's arms, a flood of emotions enveloped her like a comforting yet suffocating quilt. Each twirl pulled her deeper into his world, momentarily blurring the edges of her struggles. The music flowed, but she was caught in a reckless flow of internal dialogue. Who did she want to be in this moment? Could she actually embrace the joy this encounter offered, despite the numerous reminders of her reality spinning at her feet? Jack's presence was intoxicating, a mingling of nostalgia and curiosity. There was something alluring about the man who had once been her friend, yet now occupied an entirely different world. Struggling against her own self-imposed barriers, she felt a creeping realization that perhaps her perceived limitations weren't as unyielding as she believed. His gaze met hers with an intensity that pierced through her shaky facade, igniting dormant dreams. What if she didn't have to be just Sarah the nurse or Noah's mom? What if she could aspire to be more? The music crescendoed, and she promptly pulled herself back inward. The truth remained. The life she led was filled with responsibilities, a rhythm dictated by duty and survival. Doubts swirled, whispering reminders of the bills waiting at home, the chores that awaited her return, the unwavering demands of being a mother alone. But if there was even a flicker of possibility to be found here, a light she could kindle in herself, it would be foolish not to explore it. As the dance concluded, they stepped apart, the moment's magic drifting like smoke. Jack's smile lingered like an invitation to explore new horizons. "Let us grab a drink and catch up," he suggested, his expression earnest yet playful, filled with a warmth that stirred something deep within her. Sarah hesitated. This wasn't merely a friendly reunion. It bore an unspoken weight, the potential for something that threatened to expose her vulnerabilities and desires. Nevertheless, something in her stirred a newfound determination. "Sure," she replied, surprising even herself with the boldness in her voice, her heartbeat quickening as she trailed behind him as they navigated through the crowd, with clinking glasses and laughter swirling around them. Every step felt precariously exhilarating. Jack breached the gap that had widened since their childhood, opening the door to conversations she never imagined she would have. They laughed about old memories, explored the current state of their lives, and, for the first time, she felt the beginnings of belief rising within her, that she might advocate for her own happiness. Jack asked about her work, listening intently as she described the daily grind of the clinic, the patients who reminded her why she loved her job. To her surprise, he leaned in further, engaging in ways that felt profoundly sincere, asking questions that made her articulate dreams she had buried under years of responsibility. "You have an incredible talent for this," he said, his eyes glinting with possibility. "Ever thought about taking it to the next level? There are paths you could explore." His words tugged at her ambitions, teasing her with hope that had long faded into the background. Could she truly consider a life beyond these confines? The idea floated tantalizingly, yet fear wrapped around it like a vice. What if she stepped out of her comfort zone only to discover disappointment on the other side? In that moment, the dance felt less like an interlude and more like a catalyst, nudging her towards self-discovery and redefining her priorities. She realized that this encounter had unearthed a part of her she had allowed to wither, her ambitions, her dreams, and that perhaps Jack saw more in her than she saw in herself. As the evening wore on, her thoughts intertwined with the rhythm of the music, each beat urging her to confront her fears. Meanwhile, Jack remained at her side, as if sensing the turmoil within her and offering a safe anchorage in the storm of decisions stirring under the surface. The night was a flicker of possibility, yet dawn would also bring the reality of her situation crashing down once more, forcing her to confront the growing desire for more. In that fraying moment between hope and dread, she gazed at Jack, her heart pounding, wondering if this fleeting encounter could ignite a transformation beyond mere whimsy. What if she could take a leap? But first, she needed to navigate the crossroad awaiting her once the celebration faded. Would she choose comfort in the familiar, or dare to leap into the unknown? The weight of the decision hung heavily as the night pressed on, drawing her closer to a revelation that could shift the balance of her life forever. The dim light of the bar illuminated their faces as they settled into a secluded booth. Sarah felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Jack across from her seemed to embody the life she often fantasized about: adventurous, unburdened, introspective. She nursed her drink, savoring each sip while watching him speak. His hands animatedly illustrated stories from his recent travels, painting vivid pictures that beckoned her to join in the exploration. But once again, she felt the familiar tightening in her chest, a reminder of the obligations she couldn't shake off. Wouldn't it be simpler to retreat into a role that was well-defined, being a dedicated nurse, a responsible mother who shuffled between work and home, never questioning the limits she had imposed upon herself? Yet that wasn't who she wanted to be. That girl was an echo of someone who had faded into the background of life's demands. "Tell me more about your patients," Jack urged, his eyes brightening with interest. The genuine curiosity in his voice melted away a sliver of Sarah's self-doubt. She shared anecdotes challenging cases, moments of triumph, and the heart-tugging stories of recovery. For every patient she recounted, there was a flicker of her passion igniting. The laughter that filled the spaces between words began to drown out the self-deprecating thoughts that had plagued her for years. "Your enthusiasm is infectious," Jack remarked, placing his glass down. "It's clear you're meant for more than just this routine." Her heart fluttered at his directness. Could there really be a future where she poured herself into her profession rather than merely residing within it? "But I can't just abandon my responsibilities," Sarah interjected, her inner caution flaring. The scales of risk and comfort tipped perilously in her mind. "Noah needs me. I can't chase after dreams and neglect him." Jack's expression softened, revealing understanding rather than dismissal. "Chasing your dreams doesn't mean you neglect him, Sarah. It means showing him the power of pursuing passion. Besides, you don't have to leap without a plan. There are paths to balance both." His words resonated with a truth she had stifled. The thought of creating a future where she might explore her potential felt exhilarating yet terrifying. The evening had become an alchemy of possibilities. She could taste the sweetness of change, but the bitter aftertaste of fear loomed large. "What if I fail?" she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. "What if I try and can't handle it? I could ruin everything." The tempest of anxiety surged once again, but Jack leaned closer, his voice steady. "Everyone feels that way, Sarah. It's not about falling. It's about rising after you do. What's the worst thing that could happen? You stumble and you learn?" His challenge struck a chord. What if she didn't let fear dictate her choices? What if the edge of risk was where growth began? The inside of her mind flooded with scenarios. Epic wins and devastating losses, each layered with the hope of transformation. Navigating them was daunting but also liberating as the bar buzzed with life around them. Sarah found herself contemplating her own life's rhythm as a dance. Each decision, each fear, each aspiration a step in an intricate choreography she had yet to perfect. Why couldn't she carve a niche that harmonized her identity as a caring mother and a passionate health professional? "Maybe you're right," she mused, surprising herself. "Maybe there is a way I can reshape my path." She met his gaze, steeling herself with a nascent resolve. The air was thick with possibility. She could feel it pressing against her. But as they both leaned back, a soft tension lingered in the air, a promise of the discussion still to unfold, of choices awaiting clarity. Could she really step outside the confines of her current reality? The question turned her insides. It became a gravitational pull. She felt on the verge of a monumental decision. A whisper of daring transformed her heart, shifting her perspective on what she was capable of. Yet with every dawn came the weight of decisions she had to later confront: practicality versus aspiration, the first stones in a foundation she would need to build. "Jack," she started, knowing her next words would be consequential. "I need to know more about those paths you mentioned." In that moment, she understood she was at a threshold, and the weight of her impending decisions pressed heavily. Would she act on this newfound spark, dive into her dreams, or would she retreat back into her safety net? The night held its breath, and so did she, waiting for the answer that would inevitably shape her future. The hum of the bar faded into a distant murmur as Sarah found herself grappling with an internal battle. Jack's enthusiasm and unwavering belief in her potential made her question the very fabric of her everyday life. Was she ready to consider a new path, one that embraced all parts of her identity? "Start small," Jack said encouragingly, breaking her reverie. "What's one thing you can do in your daily life that makes you feel like you're stepping out of the ordinary?" His words struck her profoundly. The reality of her routine loomed large: work, school pickups, dinner, and bedtime stories, each day blending into the next. Yet there had to be a way to integrate her aspirations without throwing everything into chaos. She felt a spark ignite at the thought. "I could volunteer for a medical outreach program," she suggested, the idea forming like a faint glimmer of light. "It wouldn't take too much time, and it could reignite my passion for nursing." Jack smiled, a warm approval radiating from him. That's perfect. Keeps you connected to what you love and still allows you to be there for Noah. Plus, it might open doors you never knew existed. A flicker of confidence rose within her as she envisioned those first hesitant steps. Volunteering didn't require a complete overhaul of her life. Rather, it demanded a commitment to herself that she had long neglected. The apprehension that had gripped her as a mother now began to shift, replaced by an inkling of purpose. What if I try something bigger? She said, emboldened by Jack's support. What if I set goals for myself beyond just this routine? Maybe I could seek out training sessions or workshops. Jack leaned back in his seat, nodding in approval. That's the spirit. Explore those avenues. You might find you have ideas and talents you've shelved away. Yet with this newfound resolve, the nagging doubt crept back in. Ideas flowed like water, but the fear of failure would not release its grip. And what if I can't keep it all together? What if I fail and Noah ends up feeling abandoned? Remember, growth sometimes comes with disruption, he cautioned gently. It's okay to let him see you striving for your dreams. Teaches him resilience. Sarah chewed on his words, absorbing the weight of his insight. The thought of failure, once debilitating, began to morph into a potential learning opportunity. Her heart raced. She felt the dual pulls of ambition and trepidation. I've stifled parts of myself for so long, she admitted, her voice a fragile whisper. What if I begin this journey and lose sight of what matters the most? The things you love don't stand to lose from this, he replied firmly. Rather, they stand to gain from a more fulfilled you. Their conversation shifted towards the details of potential programs she could explore. Ideas flowed freely, with Jack's animated suggestions and her cautious enthusiasm creating a tangible excitement in the air. Sarah jotted down notes, each word a step toward reclaiming her identity as both an advocate for patience and a loving mother. As Jack talked, Sarah caught glimpses of the future, her hands clutching bright pamphlets about workshops. Her heart lifting at the thought of pathways unfurling before her. Those paths were no longer distant fantasies. They started to form a semblance of a plan, one actionable step at a time. But as the conversation reached its peak, the weight of practicality settled back in. What if she made these changes, poured herself into her aspirations, only to face obstacles that made her reconsider everything? Where would that leave Noah? Sometimes, Jack interrupted her spiraling thoughts, his eyes steady. What we fear most is exactly what we need to pursue. In that moment, Sarah felt a shift. The boundaries of her doubts started to become fluid, malleable, as if she held the power to sculpt them into something different. They were still present, but now accompanied by the glimmer of possibility rather than a chokehold of fear. She took a deep breath, inhaling courage like oxygen. I'm going to take those steps. I can't let fear dictate the rhythm of my life anymore. The resolve in her voice surprised them both, marking the first tangible step in a commitment to a more expansive existence. Yet as excitement surged, uncertainty lingered. How would she start? Jack, she began, feeling the weight of her impending journey. I need help mapping out my next steps. Even in her determination, doubts lingered on the periphery, a shadow waiting to leap back with each forward push. Would she truly embrace this journey and face the turbulence of change? Little did she know the real challenge was just around the corner, testing her resolve in ways she couldn't yet fathom. Sarah sat at her kitchen table the following day, staring at the list she had begun to craft. Each item represented a facet of her potential that had long been buried. It was daunting yet exhilarating, a map to a journey she had almost forgotten she wanted to take. Her hand hovered over the first item: research local medical outreach programs. Simple, yet infused with a weight that threatened to crush her enthusiasm before it fully ignited. Just as she was about to put pen to paper, Noah burst into the room, his boundless energy a welcome distraction. Mom, can we make cookies? His eyes sparkled, and she felt herself melt a little, the allure of routine beckoning her back into the familiar comfort of home. After lunch, buddy, she said, glancing at the clock, let us finish our sandwiches and then we'll bake together. As they prepared lunch, Sarah caught glimpses of the little moments that seemed to slice through the fog of responsibility. Noah's laughter, the way he mimicked her while she sliced veggies, the proud grin he wore when he spread peanut butter on his bread. The chaos and joy intertwined seamlessly. Yet a tug within her whispered that this wasn't enough. Following lunch, after the chocolate chip aroma filled their home, Sarah watched Noah bounce around in delight. He looked so happy covered in flour, and she realized that amidst these joyous moments, her own happiness felt muted. A simmering ambition brewed beneath the surface, whispering of uncharted territories. As Noah settled down for his nap, Sarah returned to her table, the list staring back at her. Each item now felt less like an expectation and more like an opportunity, a chance to be someone different than the woman confined to domesticity. She took a deep breath, then wrote a second item: find a workshop on patient advocacy. The words invigorated her. It felt like planting a flag on new terrain. But the comfort of her routine lingered, like a shadow at her back. What if she failed? The voice of doubt coiled around her thoughts. What if she went through with this and disrupted the delicate balance she and Noah had cultivated? Her phone buzzed. A message from Jack flashed across the screen. How is the planning coming along? Remember, even the smallest step counts. That simple note of encouragement nudged her forward. She bit her lip, fingers dancing over the keyboard. It's more than just goals. It's a transformation. What possible lessons might emerge from every challenge she faced? The first task was simple enough. She could Google local outreach programs. With her heart racing, she clicked through links, excitement bubbling as she compiled a list of potential options. Each new tab opened a window into the woman she longed to become: competent, engaged, passionate. A voice inside whispered doubts, but she silenced it by diving deeper, pulling up contact information for a nearby clinic. Stepping outside her comfort zone began feeling not just possible, but vital. Fueled by urgency, she seized a notebook and penned down a plan. Contact clinic, ask about volunteering. Each step was a bold declaration against her past inertia. Forward momentum countering the gravitational pull of doubt. Hours later, after Noah had awoken and participated in an impromptu dance party in the living room, Sarah sat back with a satisfaction that felt somewhat foreign yet joyful. This simple day felt monumental, like a calm before a storm of changes. Yet an unsettling thought crept back in. Could she truly balance this new endeavor without losing sight of her primary role as a mother? Was it selfish to pursue her own aspirations? As evening settled in and Noah nestled into bed, Sarah's heart constricted, caught between dual realities. She needed to face her fears head-on, but the fear of fracturing their bond loomed large. Taking a deep, steadying breath, she resolved that this next week would test her commitment. Excitement intertwined with the dread of potential obstacles. Would the balance between being the passionate nurse she yearned to be and the devoted mother she already was stretch too thin? The answer felt like it shimmered on the horizon. Every step forward might hold new revelations about herself, yet they were bound to come with tribulations and unexpected challenges. With the first day of her journey looming near, Sarah climbed into bed, allowing herself a moment of quiet reflection. Tomorrow she would reach out to that clinic, one bold step among many to come. But would it fracture the world she built with Noah or enhance it? And as her mind settled on the events of the day, she made a silent vow to find out, even if it meant confronting fears that threatened to swallow her whole. The clock ticked quietly on the wall, each tick a reminder of time passing. While outside, the world moved on, unaware of the profound transformations shaking the foundations of her life. In that solitude, a question loomed larger than the rest. What would be the price of her aspirations? The morning light stole through the window, illuminating the small kitchen where Sarah now prepared herself for the day ahead. Her heart raced in anticipation, beating to a rhythm she hadn't felt in years. It was the first day of embracing the unknown, her nerves a mixture of excitement and sheer terror. After a hurried breakfast, she sat for a moment, staring at her phone. The prospect of contacting the local clinic felt colossal, an impossible summit to scale. What if they turned her away? What if she faltered in the very first effort of her transformative journey? With a fierce shake of her head, she banished the doubts. All those years of wishing for more, wanting to be more, Today signified the first step toward reclaiming herself. She took a deep breath and called the clinic. "Good morning, Maple Hill Community Clinic." A warm voice greeted her. It was an ordinary phrase, yet it triggered a cascade of uncertainty within Sarah. She hesitated, gulping down her apprehension as she introduced herself. "I'm interested in volunteering," she managed, her voice betraying a slight tremor. As the conversation flowed, details about her potential role began to emerge, each word a small victory. Weeks of inaction shattered by one phone call. She could almost feel pieces of herself stitching back together, illuminating a world painted in colors she had forgotten existed. But doubt lingered at the edges of her thoughts. Could she really be trusted in a role that demanded as much empathy as expertise? After hanging up, Sarah realized she had committed herself. Yet the moment of triumph felt eclipsed by uncertainty. Would her efforts be enough? Noah bounded into the kitchen, a whirlwind of energy that pulled her back to the present. "Mom, can we go to the park today?" His enthusiasm enveloped her like a sunbeam piercing through clouds. "Of course. Let us go after lunch," she replied, allowing the warmth his presence brought her to balance her mounting anxieties. While playing at the park, she observed other mothers with their children, exhilarated and carefree. She longed to feel that zest for life radiating from her. As Noah scampered off to chase a butterfly, her mind wandered back to the clinic. So many questions remained unanswered. Yet, deep down, this moment felt pivotal. That night, while Noah was tucked in bed, Sarah scrolled through the emails she had received from the clinic. Information on various programs tested her newly cultivated resolve. The thought of plunged into medical training made her feel vulnerable, excited, and acutely aware of her inadequacies. Suddenly, she encountered an email about a workshop for aspiring patient advocates taking place the following weekend. Sarah's heart raced once again. She could feel the pull as if the universe itself were inviting her to seize this opportunity. But then the fears returned, mingling with her excitement. What if it required more time than she could afford? She envisioned nights consumed by study, weekends enveloped in obligation, and Noah pulling away emotionally as she had poured herself into a world of ambition. Forgetting what mattered most to him, torn between the prospect of fulfillment and potential loss, she laid on her bed, absorbing the weight of uncertainty. Her ambition beckoned, yet the echo of a mother's duty clawed at her heart. Tonight's internal conflict was palpable, igniting a question that fed her anxiety. What if pursuing her aspiration meant sacrificing the bond she cherished with her son? As she climbed into bed, clutching the covers as if they could shield her from her thoughts, she realized an undeniable truth. Every ambition comes with a price. Unable to silence the duality of her desires, she made a decision the next morning that would propel her to confront this fear. The gym bag rested by the door, packed for a spontaneous workout, a release she had long neglected. Today, she would begin facing her fears with clarity and intention. Whoever she wanted to become would require both strength and courage, forged in the fire of uncertainty. Yet the question still lingered. Was she ready to pay that price if it meant transforming not only her career but also her identity as a mother? And as she tightened the straps of her bag, a surge of resolve mingled with the familiar dread settled in her stomach. Each step she took today would inch her closer to a monumental decision. Would the price of her aspirations be more than she could afford? The gym buzzed with energy and echoed with the sounds of weights clanking and sneakers squeaking against the floor. Sarah stepped inside, her heart racing not just from excitement, but from a visceral sense of stepping into the unknown. This wasn't just a workout. It was her declaration of intent. No longer merely a spectator in life, today she would engage. She found herself moving from one exercise station to another, each rep testing her resolve. As she exerted herself physically, a realization began to crystallize in her mind. Enduring discomfort now would translate into strength later. Pushing through the fatigue drew parallels to her emotional state. The resistance she felt wasn't just in her limbs but also within her psyche. During her squats, glancing at her reflection in the mirrored wall, she saw more than just a weary face. She noticed determination etched into her features. Each drop of sweat became a testament to her commitment, her intention to reclaim her narrative from the specter of fear. You can be both, she whispered to herself, a mother and a professional. After her workout, as she cooled down, a mix of exhilaration and anxiety twisted within her. The upcoming workshop awaited her, an odyssey into the realm she once deemed impossible. Could she truly navigate this new path? The echoes of doubt haunted her, the memories of failed attempts stinging her pride. But something shifted. The gym-esque community, the women lifting weights, the men pushing limits exuded a camaraderie that fueled her resolve. It made her consider that embarking on her professional journey didn't mean abandoning her relationships. Rather, it could strengthen them. With Noah, she could explore the world together, learn, and grow. On the drive home, she replayed the stark contrast of her last few months. What was once her comfort zone now felt like a cage. She viewed the road ahead as an open stretch, brimming with possibilities and uncertainty. The option to withdraw hung in the air, waiting for her to grasp it. But the stakes felt different now, higher. This was about more than just her desire. It was about setting a precedent for Noah, teaching him that dreams were worth pursuing. Evening enveloped the neighborhood as she arrived home. Noah bounded toward her, excitement sparkling in his eyes. "Did you have fun, Mom?" His innocent inquiry struck a nerve in her, reminding Sarah of her own long-neglected joy. It dawned on her that she'd been living under the assumption that nurturing her ambitions would somehow detract from Noah's happiness. What she was awakening wasn't just her career potential. It was the woman she'd long suppressed, a role model for him. "Yeah, I did," she answered, a soft smile creeping across her face. "And tomorrow we're going to talk about my new project. Can I help?" He chirped, his eagerness palpable. "Absolutely, bud." The ensuing moments, filled with laughter, transformed the weight of uncertainty into an inspiring partnership. Their bond deepened as they engaged in discussions about her aspirations, the dreams she had once set aside in a shadowy corner of her mind. She realized that Noah wasn't merely an obstacle to her ambitions. In fact, he was a vital part of the journey. As night fell, she reviewed the materials for the workshop, allowing herself a moment to feel the pulse of anticipation. Words on the screen blurred with the possibilities. They represented connections to be made, lessons to be learned, barriers to dismantle. But one thought twisted her stomach, for as exhilarating as this leap was, it demanded extraordinary changes in her daily life. Embracing her ambitions would require sacrifices in time, energy, and focus. But Sarah found herself standing on the precipice of exhilarating choices. She understood that seeking her identity and ambitions meant navigating the intricacies of being fully present for both her son and herself. With every ounce of courage she summoned, Sarah accepted that every journey began with doubt, but it thrived on perseverance. Having taken a tentative step forward, she was now poised to break through the barriers in her own life. But as she turned off the light and prepared for bed, one question gnawed deeper than the rest. Was she truly ready for the revelations that awaited her at the workshop? Would it be the launchpad for the life she'd envisioned, or a sobering reminder of how far the road still stretched before her? The echo of potential swirled around her, yet the intensity of uncertainty rose. Tomorrow would lay in wait, promising both possibility and challenge, one that would demand not just commitment, but a deeper level of self-awareness than she had ever embraced before. Dawn broke with a surge of orange light, spilling warmth over the remnants of Sarah's restless night. She stirred beneath the sheets, the weight of yesterday's promise still pressing heavy on her chest. Today would not just be another day. It would be a pivotal moment in her journey toward clarity and self-acceptance. The workshop loomed ahead, a symbolic threshold she had to cross. After getting Noah off to school, she stood in front of the mirror, meeting her own gaze. There was something different in the reflection. It was as if the determination from her workout had lingered, wrapping around her like a protective cloak. A faint smile danced on her lips, a subtle recognition that she was crafting a new reality. In the car, the scent of new beginnings blended with the familiar aroma of leather and metal. Yet behind the steering wheel, her heart raced with trepidation. The question tugged at her. Would she fit in? She shook her head, willing herself to let go of the fear. Those voices in her mind, filled with self-doubt, had silenced her for too long. As she pulled into the workshop parking lot, a wave of anxiety washed over her. People milled around, chatting and sharing their ambitions as if they were long-lost friends. Sarah clung to her resolve, reminding herself of the camaraderie she had experienced in the gym. The atmosphere buzzed with optimism, but as she stepped through the entrance, it enveloped her with a suffocating thickness. Taking a deep breath, she searched the room for familiar faces. A woman with an assertive presence stepped forward, extending her hand. "You must be Sarah. I've heard about your aspirations. I'm Emily, the facilitator here." The sincerity in her eyes ignited a spark of possibility. Yes, that's me," Sarah replied, her voice steadier than her pulse. As the session began, Sarah absorbed the discussions on professional growth, networking, and authenticity. Each speaker shared personal stories laden with struggles and triumphs, blending professional insights with a rawness that resonated deeply within her. It became increasingly clear that she was not alone on this path. Yet, as the day progressed, an unexpected hesitation crept in. During a breakout session, participants were asked to present their goals. Each articulation prompted Sarah to dig deeper, exposing layers of vulnerability she was reluctant to reveal. Did her aspirations truly matter? What if she stumbled while sharing her ambitions? The fear of exposure clashed violently with her burgeoning determination. Finally, she raised her hand, feeling the weight of every eye upon her. "I want to create a loving home for my son while pursuing my professional goals, but I'm terrified it will come at a cost. I fear that if I fail, I'll let him down." The honesty hung in the air, palpable and heavy. Then, to her astonishment, Emily approached with a kind smile. "Sarah, vulnerability is not a weakness. It's strength. Many of us here have carried that fear, but it's what drives us to work harder." Suddenly, a wave of clarity rushed through Sarah's mind. In acknowledging her fears, she also illuminated her purpose. This was about forging a path not just for herself, but as an example for Noah. As the workshop came to a close, a sense of community enveloped her, weaving connections she had never dreamed of. Stepping outside, she glanced back, her heart full. It was time to liberate herself from the obsolete idea that she had to choose between her identity as a mother and a professional. They were intertwined, and recognizing that was her first victory. Driving home, her thoughts raced. She envisioned the conversations that awaited her with Noah, the shared aspirations. Yet, a nagging realization dawned on her: this was just the beginning. What challenges would she encounter in juggling her newfound ambitions and motherhood? Would setbacks become barriers, or would they be lessons? Arriving home, her excitement was palpable. But, as she pushed open the door, she was struck by a startling thought: this journey might demand more than she had prepared. For, in the back of her mind, a new question echoed. Would she have the resilience to face whatever storms plotted against her? The moment of truth was approaching, and she had to brace herself for the trials ahead. As Sarah stepped inside her home, the familiar comfort was laced with uncertainty. Each creak of the floorboards under her feet echoed her internal conflict. She fought to harness the excitement of her workshop experience, but an undercurrent of self-doubt pulled at her resolve. After the day's revelations, her ambition flourished, yet she couldn't shake the nagging question. Was she truly ready to act on this newfound sense of purpose? Noah's laughter erupted from the living room, drawing her back to the present. She peeked around the corner, her heart swelling as she found him sprawled on the floor with his toys, fully immersed in his imagination. They had a rhythm, a dance of their own, built on comforting routines. But today, she felt the dissonance between her aspirations and her role as a mother. "Hey, buddy," Sarah called, forcing a cheerfulness into her voice that felt just a little too bright. As she settled next to him, she wondered how she could bridge the gap between her dual identities. Their little world was simple, yet she longed for more, an expansion that would enrich both their lives. "Did you have fun at your workshop?" Noah asked, eyes wide with curiosity. "It was amazing," she replied, her enthusiasm bubbling up unrestrained. "I met some incredible people and learned so much about chasing your dreams." "Like magic?" he gasped, eyes gleaming. "Exactly like magic." She laughed. But you see, sometimes chasing dreams can feel a bit scary. You have to be brave. Noah's brow furrowed momentarily. What if you get too tired trying to catch them? His innocent question hit her with a force that left her momentarily speechless. What if she faltered? If she chased too hard and fell flat? Who would be there to pick up the pieces? But as doubt lingered, a different realization took hold. Perhaps it was in the effort itself that she would find resilience the same way he learned to stand and walk, stumbling at first but growing stronger with every attempt. Then I know I have to get back up, she said slowly, each word carefully chosen. Just like you did when you first started walking. Each try makes us better at it. Noah nodded, understanding in his young eyes. The conversation stirred something within Sarah. It was the first time she felt she could frame her aspirations not as distractions from motherhood, but as extensions of it. With every challenge she faced, she could show him the value of perseverance and determination. As the evening progressed, Sarah planned out her next steps. The workshop had ignited a fire, one that wasn't simply about her career, but also about enriching Noah's life through her own growth. She was more than a mother, she was a woman with dreams woven into every fiber of her being. The following morning, fueled by the clarity of her mission, she sat at her kitchen table, papers spread before her. Goals, strategies, time frames. She lost herself in the excitement of the plans forming. Then, just as she reached a moment of clarity, her phone buzzed. A message from Emily, a follow-up from the workshop, ignited a surge of possibilities. Let us connect next week. We can discuss collaboration opportunities. I see great things for you. Suddenly, her heart raced not only from anxiety, but with the thrill of opportunity. The prospect of actively pursuing something bigger than herself hung tantalizingly within reach. It was also a test of her newfound resolve. Could she juggle these ambitions while nurturing Noah and ensuring he felt secure? Sarah stared at the screen, breath caught in her throat. Each opportunity came with its own set of challenges. Would she manage to maintain that delicate balance, or would the scales tip, leading her toward chaos? With a deep breath, she began to type a response, an act of commitment to herself and to her son. This was merely the first bridge between her unrealized dreams and her responsibilities, but it would set the tone for everything that followed. As she sent the message, uncertainty flooded her thoughts. Would she lose sight of herself in this pursuit? Would things become too complicated? But deep down, she knew the importance of facing the unknown, urging herself into the unfamiliar as her heart raced with possibilities. As Sarah closed her laptop, a new wave of determination washed over her. The journey to realize her aspirations loomed ahead, and with it, an undeniable question. What sacrifices lay ahead, and would they draw her closer to her dreams or push her further from them? With that, she braced herself for the trials that awaited, feeling the weight of both excitement and apprehension. After all, the true test was yet to come. Months later, a distinct warmth enveloped Sarah as she stepped into the Maple Hill Community Clinic, embodying a newfound confidence that felt foreign yet exhilarating. Over the past weeks, her dedication to volunteering had revived her passion for nursing and sparked unexpected connections with people she admired. Each interaction rekindled her sense of purpose, evolving her identity from just a nurse to a passionate advocate for her patients. As she navigated through the familiar hallways, she brushed past the supportive faces of her colleagues and volunteers, all of whom recognized her relentless commitment and enthusiasm. Their nods of approval reignited the fire within her, affirming that she had carved a meaningful role not only for herself but also for the community she served. Sarah felt noticed. It wasn't just about the job anymore. She was making a real impact. Today marked an important chapter, a patient advocacy day she had helped organize to educate others on health literacy. Sarah had contributed to planning workshops and seminars, demonstrating her skills and dedication. Standing at the front, ready to address the crowd, she couldn't help but notice the nervous flutter in her stomach. This was no longer about merely filling a role. It was about sharing her journey, bridging the gap between her past uncertainty and newfound clarity. She opened her mouth to speak, and the words flowed naturally as she recounted her personal journey, how her aspirations collided with her responsibilities as a mother, and how she learned to embrace both roles while becoming a role model for her son. Her experiences grounded the workshop in authenticity, resonating deeply with the audience. It was no longer a speech. It became a shared narrative. Each time she shared a story of struggle and triumph, she was met with nodding heads and empathetic smiles of validation she had yearned for. The realization dawned upon her. Her hesitations, those creeping doubts that once loomed large, had been conquered, and they didn't define her anymore. Instead, they fueled her drive to uplift others, to inspire courage in the face of adversity. After her presentation, several attendees approached her, eager to express their gratitude. Their heartfelt comments and words of encouragement filled her with immense pride, but it was the presence of Noah that truly anchored her. He stood in the corner, clutching a hand-drawn poster that read, "My mom, the best nurse," staring at her with admiration and excitement. He beamed as she walked over and enveloped him in a warm embrace. This recognition wasn't merely for her vocational achievements. It was a testament to the resilience they had both cultivated together. In that moment, Sarah understood that her aspirations and motherhood were intertwined. Her successes in the clinic enriched her role as a mother, equipping Noah with life lessons she could not teach him in mere words. It was not just about juggling responsibilities, but about showing him the beauty of growth and resilience. As the event concluded, an unexpected invitation broke through her whirlwind of thoughts. Emily, the workshop facilitator who had fostered connections with her, approached with a proposal that sent excitement whirling in Sarah's chest. "How would you like to mentor others in advocacy within our clinic's initiatives?" she asked, sincerity glimmering in her eyes. The opportunity felt monumental. Reflecting on her journey, Sarah realized she was finally acknowledging the deeper layer of her identity, not only as a nurse but as a guide, a mentor who could inspire others navigating similar challenges. Here she was, standing at the precipice of something great. The reach of her influence could extend beyond her own story. With a return of fervent confidence, Sarah accepted the opportunity, savoring the gravity of this moment. The emotions surged within her, a sense of fulfillment enveloped her whole being. She had moved from self-doubt toward a pivotal resolve, proving to herself that she could transform her life through affirming actions. As they wrapped up discussions, she glanced at Noah, his eyes wide in admiration, and a smile broke upon her face. The leap into her aspirations had not only changed her life, but had created a richer environment for him to learn and thrive. They had both grown together in ways that merged their identities harmoniously, a mother and a compassionate advocate side by side. Stepping into the future, Sarah knew that challenges still awaited, but her experience equipped her with tenacity and purpose. She had unlocked a new chapter in her story, embracing her ambitions while championing her role as a mother. No longer shackled by fear, she sidestepped the doubt that once defined her existence, and stepped boldly into the legacy she was ready to create. It was a moment of achievement that settled warmly in her soul, reminding her that every challenge faced had ultimately led her here, a confident, accomplished woman destined to inspire others. And as she closed the door on the clinic behind her, the sun setting in a glorious blaze, Sarah recognized this pivotal moment was merely the beginning. She had not only conquered her past but stood firmly on a path toward a boundless future. You need to subscribe now to be part of this incredible transformation and not miss out on the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to fuel the algorithm and spread the inspiration. Comment your reactions and theories about Sarah's journey and the lessons learned. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this powerful conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share and support those on their own path of personal overcoming.